So we're going to start off this conversation about high performance culture by having a little bit of a group discussion. And that group discussion is going to be about the benefits of a high performance culture. Now, I'm sure many of you can easily pick out quite a few benefits, but I'm curious, when you hear the term high performance culture, I think about the word dynamic, which is a constant, ever growing organization that is positive in nature. So I'm curious, and I'd love for just some volunteers to kind of start the conversation here. Why is a high performance dynamic culture a positive attribute to your overall team and ultimately a success factor to the success of your team and you as a manager? So what are some areas that a high performance culture really impacts your team? Who wants to start? Gianni, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been working on this concept of like my reps being self-sufficient. One of the things that's been a, I've been struggling with is hand holding, showing a new rep, hey, you got to make phone calls. You want to make a lot of money this summer, like you got to make phone calls. And luckily I had two reps launch this week that are really, I'm hoping, that they've shown themselves to be really self-sufficient this week. But it's like promoting that to the group. Like I don't need to tell you that you need to make phone calls, and it's like instilling that value in team meetings. So it's like working smarter, not harder on PDI, on PCs, to like create that environment.
Cool. Okay. So self-sufficiency. I love that. What other areas of the business does having a high performance culture impact?
Sales.
Sales, absolutely. We love having competitive, a friendly competition going on. So sales 100%. What else?
Future opportunities like AM promotions, TLA, branch manager opportunities.
Totally. And with that, I'm going to actually kind of package that in the word retention, right? Because that creates retention. It keeps people around. And the longer you're around, the more interested you are in the different opportunities that we have, right? What else does having a high performance culture create within your organization?
Team building, recruiting.
Yeah, having a positive PR culture for sure. And then let's just get one more out there. This one's a really easy one, the one that I'm looking for, but it's okay if you don't share that one. Who wants to take a guess? How about making the experience more fun and enjoyable, right? Think about your experience as a sales rep. Now, a lot of you mentioned I was just naturally motivated, and that's part of the reason why you're here as a branch manager, because of that quality that you have within yourself. But truth be told, your manager probably loved you because you were so much fun to work with. Maybe at times you were difficult, but overall, you brought a great energy to the environment. You led by example, and it just created more fun. So that's another component of why having a high performance culture is so valuable. So now that we've gotten that part out of the way, I've got a couple of questions that I want you all to just jot down the first thoughts that come to mind. And these questions are questions that are going to help bring some clarity to all of you in regards to what you're trying to build. I am going to give you some ideas and thoughts around culture, but it's important first and foremost that you take the time to define what a high performance culture looks like to you, because it does look different to everybody. And I would say there's different flavors of high performance culture based on the type of person you are. We have people in our organization like a Brian Hurlman, for example. Jasmine, I know you work with Brian Hurlman. Brian's version of a high performance culture is going to look very different than maybe that of a Brett Wiggins. Brett's a great manager out in the Midwest. They both have extremely high performance cultures, but those two gentlemen as human beings are extremely different. So it's important that you as the leader take the time to define, what does my flavor of high performance culture look like? And these questions are going to encourage you to think back to the time when you were a rep. Now, Riley and Aubrey, these questions might be harder for you because you feel like I just came, showed up, and did what I needed to do. A lot of you might relate to that. But I want you to get out of your own head and think about, what did my manager do to continue to cultivate that desire to keep showing up? Because even if you understood it right from the start, there were probably times where you did doubt yourself a little bit and your manager came in and helped you keep going. So here are some of the questions. Question number one, and again, I want you to take like 30 seconds just to like jot down some bullet points. You don't need to write full sentences. We won't have time for that. But question number one is, how do I envision my team operating? Whatever comes to mind, how do I envision my team operating? Are there buzzwords that come to mind? Are there themes that come to mind? So again, how do I envision my team operating? And maybe put some qualities of top performers in that answer. So what are the qualities that are present in your top performers? So how do I envision my team operating? And what are some qualities present in my top performers? So I'll give you guys another like 15 seconds just to jot down a few answers here. So again, the question is, how do I envision my team operating? And what are some of the qualities that are present in my top performers? Okay, next question. What was the culture like in the office I started in? What was the culture like in the office I started in? And again, you just put down some adjectives. You don't need to write down a whole full paragraph here. I'm not looking for grammatically correct answers. Just get some words down, get some themes down. What was the culture like in the office I started in? And then ask the question, what made me stick around? What retained me? What led me to decide I wanted to be a branch manager? So what made me stick around? What retained me? What made me decide that I wanted to be a branch manager? Okay, the next question, this is going to be more about yourself, less about your office, but more about yourself. Think about your most successful push period. What were the standards you held yourself to during that push period? So what were the standards you held yourself to during that push period? Was it a certain number of phone calls? Was it a certain number of demos? Was it a standard of mindset or of attitude or of excellence? What does that mean? What did it look like? How did you think about it? What actions did you take? So about your most successful push, what were the standards you held yourself to? Then thinking one layer deeper, how did your manager support you in those standards? How did they hold you accountable? How did they help you decide on those standards if they helped you decide? And specifically in your office last summer, if that's when your push was, were there any systems that were in place that helped keep you accountable? Things like morning phone jams or accountability groups. What types of things helped keep you accountable to going after that push? Okay. Now thinking about just the overall summer, last summer, when you were working with your manager, what was expected of you on a daily or weekly basis? What was expected of you on a daily or weekly basis? How did your manager relay these expectations to you? Was it a contract? Did they have you sign a contract at all? Was it just a regular team meeting where they would bring up the standards of the office? Was it during PDI calls or during PCs? But bottom line is, how did you know what the standards were and the expectations were? Were there any positive repercussions of meeting the expectations? Meaning, were you rewarded when you met and exceeded the expectations? Were you rewarded when you met and exceeded the expectations? Or on the flip side, if you didn't meet the expectations, what happened? Was there a difficult conversation that your manager had with you? All right, come up for some fresh air here. I know that was fast. That's a fast activity with a lot of questions and a lot of thinking. But the reason why I asked you these questions is because it's really important that before we start putting something into place, we've taken the time to define what types of environments we've been part of that would be considered high performance. What are examples of high performance cultures that we've experienced ourselves? And then specifically, what were some of the processes that we took as reps to have success here? Because when you are a manager, you're going to pull a lot of experience from when you were a rep and you're going to bring it into your office. Are you following me so far on this activity here? Okay, great. During these questions, was there anything that popped up for you that you hadn't thought about, but you can now see how bringing it kind of into awareness is helpful for you as a manager when working with your reps? Was there anything that popped up for you? Were like, oh yeah, I remember how I performed during a push period and how my manager worked with me. That brought some awareness to you. Yeah, Gianni, share with us. What came up for you?
Yeah, one of the things I've been struggling with is I don't want to be too hard on them, on the reps. I don't want to push them to a point where they don't want to work hard anymore. But at the same time, in this exercise, I'm getting flashbacks to the text like keep going, keep pushing. One of the adjectives I wrote down for Kavi's office was intense and fun and competitive, and I think that there is such a merit to a healthy, competitive, and intense environment, and I wrote down probably 3 times inspire versus require. We said in the interview, and it's like he didn't say, "Hey, I expect you to do 2K this week," but like I knew I was gonna get like the sales report sent to me like with my name at the top at the end of the week. You know what I mean? And that's what kept me going.
Cool. So it's powerful to remember what kept you going, because there are going to be reps who need that same level of care and attention. At the same time, there will be reps that need a little bit more of a reminder. So, some of you mentioned I was naturally motivated. Not everybody comes here naturally motivated. Some people need to see the power of igniting the motivation to keep going, but they don't come naturally motivated. They're kind of wondering, okay, is this going to be for me? I'm not totally sure, but let me give it a try. But then as they see the possibilities in front of them, they become more motivated over time. But I'm curious, did anything else pop up for people during this portion of the call here? Jasmine.
Like the top two were definitely having like tough conversations like early on, to create that expectation. 'Cause a lot of times, like I'll wait until like it's too late and see what's gonna happen instead of just nipping it right in the bud when it's happening. And also just like having fun, like having just a fun work environment. One thing that we always used to do, like in our office, like in our division, like we will always go out, like whether it was like to like restaurants or whatever. I know COVID is kind of hard, but just have fun, which I feel like I'm not having a lot of right now. So that was like one of the main things that kept me around, with just getting like BVM leverage and being held accountable and just wanting to like be like my manager and be around my manager as much as possible.
Cool. Okay, great. And I know with COVID, it definitely does put a wrench in some plans, but what's great is that we're opening up more and more every single day, and there's nothing stopping you from doing a team day. Sure, does everybody have to show up? No, and you can put a little asterisk on it and say, if you're comfortable showing up, please do. But you can certainly include those types of fun experiences, and they are culture building experiences, by the way. So while they might be a little bit difficult to plan sometimes, they're going to be beneficial for your team. Aubrey.
Based off of like what you were just saying, I just wanted to throw something out there. Something that we've been doing in our office after like team meetings, like to wrap it up, is something fun to build culture in our office is like a TikTok competition. So people like sending their favorite TikToks, or like one time it'll be the funniest TikTok. The last one was like the best food TikTok, like something like that, that just really gets the team culture going. It's done like a lot for our office, and it's even better than we thought it would be. So just a recommendation, TikTok competition, super fun.
Cool. Yeah, that is cool. I love that. You can also use some of the more in-person events as incentives as well. You know, hey, if you get over $1,000 this week, you know, we'd love to celebrate with a pizza party on Friday night or something along those lines. Gianni.
Yeah, we had a region call this morning, and Earl said something that I really challenged my perception. He was like, "Whatever you think, like contests don't translate to sales," and that was something that was like, I never thought of it that way. He was like, competitions are for managers to promote action, and I thought that was something that I really took away from that, because it was like, for me, I was like, oh, contests are so we can get more sales. And it's like, no, contests are so we can get kids on the phone, you know, like getting like putting in the daily actions, and that was something that I really like wrote down and took away. So, and I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Aubrey, too. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good reminder for sure. Okay, I'm curious on the question about the standards that you held yourself to during your most successful push. Because if you think about high performance, so during your push period, your most successful push, that was when you were performing at your highest level, right? So what were the things that you did on a daily basis? What were those expectations you held yourself to? What were those standards that you held yourself to? Jasmine.
One big thing was circle of influence and waking up early for alliances. That was a really big thing. Like we're like, I don't know, like our division does like a champions club and like SC1 push alliances. So being on those and just, you know, getting like a partner buddy, or a push buddy was really, really helpful.
Cool. AJ, I saw you unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I loved morning phoning. Like I could go into the day with one or two demos, but then I'll end the day with 6 demos completed. And that's because I'd always wake up early, maybe 7, 8, 9. And even when I spoke to my customers, they were always glad. They liked, it was refreshing to them that someone would wake up early in the morning to book a demo with them and book same days. I brought that urgency when I phone in the morning. So basically morning phone jams is what really really impacted my business when I went through my push periods.
Totally. Jacob.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to comment is not just the morning, but at the night. It's that one thing that I look forward to. Like, for example, I really loved carrot cake. So if I didn't hit my demo goal and sales goal by the end of the day, I said, I'm not having it. And if I did, I had it. So just having that like little one thing that I look forward to at the end of the day that like gets me going, as silly as that may seem. But I think that, and then instilling that into reps, like how we can kind of transfer that over to our teammates, is really going to make a difference, even though it sounds kind of corny.
So talk about a fun culture building activity. Like you could have a team meeting where one of the like intro questions is, what is your like guilty pleasure food? And then what you could say is, anyone who hits their demo goal this week, I want to see you eating your guilty pleasure food. and like send us a picture of what your guilty pleasure is. Like that might be a fun little culture building. I know for me, when I was doing like big time phone jams, I would get those little mini Reese's cups and I put them sporadically on top of numbers. I'd have a sheet of 100, like 100 down to 1. And then I would just put the little Reese's like on random numbers. And when I got to that number phone call, I would have that Reese's cup. And that was like my internal motivation to keep going. Because if I was at call number 66 and I had a Reese's cup at 63, like I was going to make those extra 3 calls so I could eat that Reese's cup, right? Audrey, I saw you had your hand raised.
I don't think I did, but that's okay.
Oh, never mind. I thought you did.
No, it's all good. I guess going back to my most successful push, basically keeping yourself accountable, like doing what you say you're gonna do, demos completed, calls made, keeping your schedule filled within like a 3-day window, 5 calls before, 5 calls after. And that was honestly like my team, like I started in a branch office, so our team was pretty small. And I think my most successful push, I was like the only rep left at the end of
That's okay.
yeah. So I was like, I owe this to myself to have a successful push. And then of course, like staying in high communication with my manager, having a plan, having agreements, and just staying on pace with the expectations.
Cool. So the reason why we're having this conversation, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, like, okay, how does this apply to like me building my culture out? June is your first month with a push period, right? So you've got SC1 coming up. And there's going to be a moment when you are rallying your team towards SC1 and you are getting people's buy-in and their tie-in to going big for SC1. And my encouragement for you is to share your own personal story about what your most successful push looked like. What were the outcomes of that push? What kind of money did you make? What did you learn? What did you experience about yourself? How did you grow? That's the first area of getting people tied in, is sharing your own personal story. And then reminding them, hey, this can be X, Y, and Z for you. If you want to earn $2,000 in the next 2 weeks, this is your opportunity to do that. If you want to create a badass resume, this is your opportunity to do that. If you want to increase your skills so the rest of the summer is easier for you, this is your opportunity to do that. So you share your story, then you share what's in it for them, right? Because the reason why you share your story first is it builds that credibility. It shows them, oh, she's done this before, or he's done this before. And then you say, I want this for you. You know, I don't share this to impress you, but to impress upon you what this push can do for you. And then you go into the what's in it for them, right? Once you get the buy-in from the people who want to go big, you know what it took to go big. You know the standards you held yourself to. So you can relay those standards to your people. Okay, so that's, you know, in a vacuum, a hyper-focused way to build a culture around a push period. Now, obviously, not every day of the summer is a push. To you, it might feel like it, but we don't want to necessarily make people feel like every single day is a push period, because that could get a little overwhelming. But we still want to create a high-performance culture. So let's scale all the way back to day 1. I want to ask you guys, are you telling your people what the standards are in your office? Have you thought about, okay, what are my standards? So I just had you do an exercise that should have brought up some standards in terms of your push period standards. But just overall within your office, have you taken the time to define, what are my standards? Meaning, what do I expect from people? Now, there might be standards that you expect for people who are full-time, and then there might be standards that you expect from people that are part-time. I think it's an important distinction to make. But how many of you have taken the time to actually list out the standards that you have within your office? Raise your hand. Riley, would you mind sharing with us what those standards are?
So the standards for me is showing up to team meetings. I think they're really important just to be around the team. And then PDI, Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, just to get time with me and go over like how things have been going through the job throughout the week. And then talking about anything else going on in their life, because my manager, Josh, when I was a rep, would always do that with me, and it definitely helped me. And then another thing is just to be constantly phoning, set phoning times either every day or if they're part-time, to get them like 3 to 4 times a week, just so they can fill up their schedule when they do work. The biggest thing we push though is communication with me. So that's the biggest thing I talk about before day one of training starts.
Great. I'm really happy that you share it, but I didn't see anybody else raise their hand. I saw Jasmine give me like a maybe sort of. Go ahead, unmute yourself. What kind of standards do you have in your office?
Yeah, I feel like I have a little bit, but I should probably get more. One of our standards is showing up to Champions Club every single day. Like for the week, I like put it like you have to show up for the first week, and if you don't absolutely find value in it, then you don't have to come. But they find value in it, so they come. Calling on coaching calls, Wednesday phone jam meetings every day. If not, they're having to make up one. And just hitting minimum if you're working part-time, 5 demos a week. And if you're doing full-time, 7 minimum. That's really it. But I feel like I should have more.
Cool. So that's a good place to start. I didn't see anybody else raise your hand. And so it's important to recognize that you cannot expect people to do things that you have not explicitly told them they need to be doing. So you might want to have an office with high standards and high expectations, but you can't have high expectations if you have not relayed the standards. Expectations come from your standards, and culture follows structure. Write that down. Culture follows structure. Your standards are going to be the building blocks to your culture. So if you have not yet taken the time to outline what are my standards that I want my people to abide by, that is like place to start, number one. Now, a couple of tips for you. I would think back to what were the standards that made you successful. And some of you might find that you had managers when you first started that didn't do this, yet you're still here. So the chances are you held your own self accountable to some certain standards. Riley, Aubrey, I'm looking at you two specifically because of what you shared in the beginning of the call. If you find that you're just intrinsically motivated, ask yourself, okay, what were the actions or what were the standards I held myself to naturally? You cannot expect people to be like you when they start this business. That was, if you were here during the branch impact call or the branch office hours where you did the 10 key mindset shifts, one of those key mindset shifts was you can't expect people to be just like you, but you can teach them how to act like you, right? So if you haven't taken the time to think about, okay, what were the things that I did, that I valued, that I held myself accountable to, write those things out and then create a message around them. It doesn't have to be a long message, but a standards message. I would even go as far as writing the standards down and emailing them to everybody. Hey, everybody, these are Team Alpha's standards. I hold myself accountable to them, and I expect our team to hold themselves accountable to them. If there's any standards on here that you look at and you don't feel like you're going to be able to hold yourself to, let's talk about it. I value communication. I know everybody has different situations. So if there's something on here that you need to talk to me about, let's talk. But ultimately, these standards are in place for you. They are not because I just want to, run a tight ship. It's because I know what it takes to be successful. So these are the standards of our office. So think about what were the things that you did to make you successful. And the second thing I want you to think about is, what do you want to create? So that first question I asked you guys was, how do I envision my team operating this summer? What are the qualities present in my top performers? If any of you mentioned like team camaraderie or competition, ask yourself, what might be a standard that promotes team camaraderie? Or what might be a standard that promotes like teamwork? If you don't have a standard of field training in your list of standards, I would add that in there because that promotes teamwork and collaboration and people helping each other out. From a competitive standpoint, I might add something in there where it's, something along the lines of, if you are if you're doing this full time, please or if you're doing this full time, you must sign up for at least one accountability group. That could be a competitive driver. So those are just some things to think about. I'm going to pause, come out for air here. What's coming up for you guys? What questions do you have about this particular portion of creating a high performance culture? Is this making sense? Yes, go ahead, Gianni.
Yeah, I have a lot of kids on my team are money motivated.
Mhm.
So what we do in our PCs is we set an income goal for them for the week, and then we give them a demo goal to correlate that income goal for the week. So to make sure that they're getting the demos. What I've found is the issue is my kids are hitting their income goal, and then they stop doing demos because they've hit their income goal. So I guess creating the standard of full-time 7 to 10 demos a week. When they hit their income goal, it's like, hey, like obviously I know they can make a lot more, but it's like, a lot of them are, hey, I've hit my income goal for the week. Like, why should I want to do more work? I guess is the question.
Have you thought about having a must do, could do, should do, or must do, should do, could do income goal
for each week? That's a good idea. We did for the summer, but I think
because then what's your must do? Okay, great, you hit that. Cool. Let's go for your should do. Okay, great. Your could do could be a number where they're like, that's not possible, but we know it's possible, right? Like it might be earning $1,000 in a week, and someone might be like, no freaking way. Like that's not. But if they're on the right track and they've hit their should do, you can be like, dude, you hit your should do. Like, why not go for your could do? Like, what could it look like to hit $1,000 this week earned? Because if someone's money motivated, but you're putting a cap on their thinking, then they're not going to think bigger, right? So if you're just sticking at one income goal and you're not even giving them the time to think about what it could look like to have $1,000 inserted into their bank account on Friday, then they're not gonna, there isn't the motivation for them to keep going. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, try that. Any other thoughts or comments about that particular topic that we just talked about? Cool. Okay. So if you have not started relaying your standards, start doing it. This is something that I would infuse into your team meetings every single week. So I had mentioned create a talk around your standards. 5 minutes. Hey everyone, Team Alpha standards. Here's why we do it. Here's why it's important. This is what's going to create for you in your life. This is why we have them. We're going to list them out. The more you say it, the more it becomes ingrained in people. But if you just say it once, you can't expect people to continue to remember. Unfortunately, you just cannot expect people to do those types of things and to think that type of way. And one of the things that I think John Fiacco mentioned in our last podcast interview was this idea of flexibility. So people come to this position because they want flexibility. Yet, all too often, people leave this position because it's too flexible. Some of you might have run into this already. If you haven't, you will. You will have someone quit on you because they need a more stable position. But when they first came to you, they wanted a flexible position. Interesting. Why is that? So you as the manager have to help them learn how to work with the flexibility, how to hold themselves accountable to making the schedule and sticking to the schedule. Many of the standards that Jasmine and Riley mentioned are standards that surround action. You know, the phone time, coming to meetings, coming to Champs Club, doing what they said they're going to do. So these are pretty simple things, right? But it's important that we hold people to these standards so that way they earn the income that keeps them around. But if we're just like, yeah, it's flexible, great. Are you going to be full-time or part-time? Cool, that's 5 demos to 7 demos. All right, good, you're off. Let's go. Let's do this thing. They're so new that they won't know how to handle that freedom and flexibility. Is this making sense? Aubrey, I see you nodding your head along. Share with me like what's coming to mind for you.
So one of my reps specifically, she will like set big goals for herself for the week, but then like just not like it'll come to that day and she doesn't have her goal hit. So she's, I guess, struggling with like keeping herself accountable to setting things because I hold her accountable, but she's not really holding herself accountable. So that makes this a lot of sense. Like how I can reframe her mindset to be like, yeah, Trinity, it is flexible. And that's one of the main perks of the position. But with that flexibility, it means you have a lot of personal responsibility. So you have to like make sure that you're still putting in the work. It's not a question of whether you put in the work, like if you put in the work, what flexible means is just when you put in the work and when it works for you.
Yeah,
So
think about this. Yeah. Every person that comes to your organization, unless they're like, they've already graduated from college, every person that walks into your organization has been told for their entire life where to show up, how to show up, when to show up, and what to do when they show up. Now, all of a sudden, they're given this position where unless you take that responsibility of telling them to do these things, they won't know what to do. Unless they're, again, someone who's intrinsically motivated and they're the best ones that you want to find, but you're good. They're like a needle in the haystack. So you just shared, Aubrey, I think that was a great realization of, okay, they have this goal and I'm holding them accountable, but they have to take personal responsibility here. And from an accountability standpoint, are you really helping them create the schedule and talking through with them? Hey, I know you want to earn or you want to sell $1,000 this week. Let's break that down and really put the actions into your schedule. So if you want to sell $1,000 this week, that means you want to get at least 10 demos booked. So where are you going to focus on getting your demos booked? Like what times and what days? Shall we rate what you have, on your calendar? Cool. Okay, great. Now let's take a step further back. The phone time. So if we want to schedule 10 demos, we probably need, about 2 to 3 hours of phone time in your schedule. Not all at once, but just kind of built within your schedule. So where are you going to put your phone time? Now, of course, you're coming to the team meeting, so that's going to be one area. Take care of that phone time. Do you as a manager have other phone times for your team to show up, get them into one of those phone jams, and then maybe they have to do some phoning on their own, but make sure that's in their schedule. And then if you have the capacity to remember this, maybe you put their phone time also in your schedule and you shoot them a quick text when it comes up to 6 p.m. at night. Hey, Trinity, I know you've got big goals. It's phone time. Let me know how it goes. Like, good luck on your phoning. But it's just a good reminder that these reps have never had the experience of like setting their schedule on their own and holding themselves to it. So you have to act as that buffer. You're not a teacher. You're not going to send them to the principal's office if they don't show up. But you still want to act as that mentor for them of like, hey, you said you're going to do this. Let's get it done. Text me how it goes afterwards. Is that making sense to everybody? Yeah? Thoughts or comments that are coming up for you guys as we're talking about this? Aubrey?
I think like the following up is something that I could do better at. Like when you just said like send me an update later. That's something that Amir talks about a lot within our like team in Carolina division. He talks about like, hey, this is what I expect from you, and like really letting them know that like they need to send you updates. Like if they have phone time on their own, you expect them, like he's like, I set a timer on my phone, and if I don't have the update from them by the timer goes off, they're going to get a call from me, and it's not going to be like a fun conversation. So just like letting reps know that if they're doing something like that on their own and something that they need to do in order to like hit their goal for a week, like expecting the update, being like letting them know that you're expecting an update from them and that it's something they need to do to show you that they've like put in the work and that they're like listening and like following along to how you're guiding them and how you're coaching them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I had asked another question earlier on about, when you exceeded the expectations, how did your managers, positively reinforce that with you? And then also at the same time, if you did not meet the expectations, what was that conversation that you had? And you bring up a really great point, Aubrey, about how Amir would kind of call you out in a way. So here's a really good tip to write down. Celebrate what you want to duplicate. Celebrate what you want to duplicate. This is a big culture building reminder. So if somebody just does a phone jam on their own and they give you the updates, say, yeah, I did my phone jam, made 20 calls, booked 3 demos in your team WhatsApp, guess what you do? Everyone, I want to shout out Aubrey Briggs. She just did her own phone jam at home, did 20 phone calls, booked up 3 demos. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Keep up the great work. You celebrate them in public. And this is going to create that motivation for other people to do it because people like to be recognized. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, if they don't do what they said they're going to do, it does not get swept under the rug because you feel uncomfortable bringing it up. I'll say that again. It does not get swept under the rug because you feel uncomfortable bringing it up. Think about it from a perspective of a 17-year-old junior in high school who, I don't know if your high schools had a dress code. Mine did. I was a regular breaker of the dress code. I constantly tried to wear leggings at school when we weren't allowed to, and I would always try to break the dress code. The first couple of times when nobody noticed, guess what? I was like, cool, I can keep doing this. Finally, when a teacher was like, Shelby, I see that you're wearing leggings, you can't wear it. Guess what? Their words didn't mean as much to me because I had already gotten away with it 5 or 6 times. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I just can't wear it on the day that I'm seeing this teacher because she knows what the leggings look like. But if I had worn them on day 1 and that teacher had said, Shelby, you're wearing leggings, I would have been a lot more cognizant about wearing leggings on days 2, 3, 4, and 5. Does that analogy make sense to all of you? So the sooner you have the difficult conversation, the better the relationship is. But if you let it slide, they're going to know you're not picking up on it. So their respect for you as a leader does go down because you let it slide. Additionally, I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like, how do I have these difficult conversations? I'm like, use your standards as the bad guy. You're not the bad guy. You're the one who's saying, hey, these are our standards. We talked about this. I share them every single team meeting. You've expressed to them that you see that they're fair. I've got to uphold these standards. Like that's how our office works. So, we've got to have a discussion about this. The standards are the bad guy. You're not the bad guy. You're the one who's upholding the standards. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. Let's see if there's anything else that I can mention in here. Oh, one last thing that I'm going to mention that might be helpful from just an organizational standpoint. Okay, how do I hold people accountable? Do you guys use Google Calendar? Okay, great. Here's an idea for you. This is what I would do if I was in your positions. I would have a separate Google Calendar because you can create multiple Google Calendars. Have you guys all seen how you do that? Yeah? Okay. So you can create a separate Google Calendar that is specifically for when a rep tells you they're going to do something. Meaning, if you have a PDI conversation, I'm having a PDI conversation with Jasmine. Jasmine says, yeah, I'm going to phone tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. I say, cool, Jasmine, what's your goal? How many calls are you going to make? Oh, I'm going to make 20 phone calls. Okay, awesome. I pull up that Google Calendar. I click 6 to 7. I put Jasmine's making phone calls. In the description, her goal is 20 phone calls. I put that in there. As my team is still small, I check that on a regular basis. Who can I send a text message to remind them, to check in with them? As my team grows, that becomes my AM's responsibility. Hey, are you checking the team calendar to send accountability messages? So Jacob, for your AMITs, that can be something that you work with them on. Okay, is that an idea that you think could work in your organization? Cool. Okay.
Definitely, because I forget sometimes. So that's
Of
really
course
good.
you forget. I mean, dude, if it's not on my calendar, it does not happen. Like literally. I have to put freaking date nights on my calendar with my husband. Otherwise, it will not happen. Like I'm surprised I don't put like shower in my calendar. Like it's just, I have to live and die by my calendar. So as you are managers with bullets flying left and right, you have to write things down. And so I would certainly utilize the Google Calendar as a tool to keep yourself accountable to your team. The same way they're accountable to their goals and accountable to the team, like you are accountable to them. Last 6 minutes here, questions, comments, thoughts. That's all I've got on my end, but any key takeaways or things that you're excited to start implementing into your team? Jasmine.
One like key takeaway is definitely like the standards. I feel like I implement them like just one time, and I forgot to like make my team fly, like go over it like every single like time. I do that for my SMRAs, and I hold them accountable. And I'm like, hey, I don't want to have this type of conversation. Don't make me have it. I'm not the mean guy, but you should have done it. Blah blah blah. Like I do it with my SMRAs, but I don't do it with my reps as much. Which I need to. And I like the mindset that you put in. Like the sooner you have the conversation, the better your relationship is, and the more they'll respect you as a manager. Because I thought it was the complete opposite. Like if I like be mean or whatever, like too soon, they'll like hate me or leave.
So I don't want you to think that you're being mean, by the way. There's a difference between being mean and holding someone accountable.
Yeah. That was like my biggest takeaways, especially like the Google Calendar too, and celebrate what you want to duplicate. That's something that we talked about that I like forgot about, like especially like the newsletter. Like if you want the newsletter to be like a standard in your organization, like get one person to like lead that, like your AMIT, and then like, hey, this is the standard. Blah blah blah. Great job hitting the newsletter. This is what happens when you hit the newsletter consistently for the rest of the summer. Is how much you make. Like go into it like that. So I really like how that too.
Yeah. And I also think it's important that you're not just celebrating results, you're celebrating action. You might even go as far as celebrating when people hear the word no. Like, so I run a team for another direct sales company. I sell wine, and we have this thing on our WhatsApp where anytime someone gets ghosted or hears the word no, we inundate them with funny memes. We're like, they heard the word no, what do? We celebrate. All right, like we know what to do here. And it minimizes the pain people feel when they hear the word no. So that's like another thought, again, actions, like all of those types of things. So I hope this was helpful for everyone. And as a reminder, if there are like specifics that you want to cover within your office, keep an eye out for the link that comes out on Fridays. As you've all probably noticed, I book up extremely fast. To give you a heads up, next week I only have 12 coaching spots. So they're going to go fast. Just keep an eye out for the link. That's all I can say is like, just keep an eye out for the link. Try to book a time. But if you can't, you know that the coaching call or the office hour is always available, as is the podcast that kind of recaps all that I talk about throughout the week. So Any last questions? No. Jacob, so as soon as you got the text, you clicked it. Like as soon as it came in.
Yeah, like literally 5 seconds after, and then it said all times in May booked. I was
Shelby, send it to me first and then send it to everyone else.
like,
So I guess maybe my conveyor like sends it out. Like some people get it before others because I sent it and then within 10, 15 minutes I was booked, but I wonder if it was like still sending out. Maybe what I'll do is I don't know. I'll figure that out because I don't want people who happen to be on the bottom of the list to be at a disadvantage. Let me talk to Conveyor and see what I can do about that. I'll try to figure out a way that makes it more fair for certain people. I might start putting a limit on how many coaching calls some people can schedule because I have some people who schedule every single week and they just happen to always get it. I'll work on that. So let me work on that on my end. But anyways, I hope you guys had a good time today, gained some value, and I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, Shelby,
Sure.
if you have time.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, I got a PDI call like right when you started. Are you gonna send the recording out after you close the meeting? Okay.
I'm going to send it out on Friday.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank
Is that
you.
your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was gonna
cool.
try and like finish my notes now, but yeah, I'll finish on Friday.
Awesome. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.